This After Effects tutorial is sponsored by Point 5. Hey everyone, what's up? I am Nikhil from Dope Motions and welcome back to this brand new After Effects tutorial. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to create this cinematic title animation inside of After Effects. All the colorful ink blobs or ink wavy background that you see in the background, we will be creating them inside of After Effects as well using some very simple effects. With that said, let's jump straight into After Effects and get started. Alright, so here we are in After Effects. Let's start by creating a new composition. I'm going to keep it 1920 by 1080. That is full HD, 30 FPS and 10 seconds long. Let's call this render as our main render comp and hit OK. Then let's create one more new comp, which is going to be our title placeholder. So I'm going to call this title with the same exact properties, hit OK. Then let's select the text tool and you can of course type in anything that you want. I'm going to type in intro. All right, let's align this into the center, and for the font I will be using heading compressed pro. Let's go with something like a bold one, looks good, and increase the size. Let's select this, hit Ctrl D to duplicate it, put this below, and I'm going to call this cinematic. For the second text, I will be using a Nexa font. So Nexa book, I think, should be good. Yeah. So something like this looks good. I think let's go with Nexa bold. So our text is ready. Now let's go ahead and add some nice animation to this. So let's add the text animation on the intro text. I'm going to go into the animate and let's add an opacity. Then go into the add property and add a blur. Set the blur amount all the way up to 100 and set the opacity down to 0. Then go into the range selector. Let's make some room right here. At the very start, I'm going to set this one to -100, go to around 3 seconds and set this to 100. Go into the advanced properties, set the shape from square to ramp up. And now we should have something like this. Now let's go and turn on the randomize order and you can play around with the seed depending on the look that you want. So I think this is looking pretty nice. Now I can simply copy this animator, hit Ctrl C and paste it on the cinematic text. So hit Ctrl V. I'll go to around 1 second and drag the second text so that the second text starts appearing or animating after 1 second. So this is looking pretty good. So our basic text animation is ready. Looking very nice. Now let's go back into our render comp. Let's go ahead and create a new composition called this simple fractals. Now for the height, I'm going to increase this. So first of all, let's set the width to somewhere around 1500 and set the height to 2000. That should be good. Hit OK. Alright, hit Ctrl Y to create a new solid, call this BG for background. Hit Ctrl Y again to create a new solid, call this fractals. Go into effects and preset and search for fractal noise. Apply this. Now you can create number of different looks using this particular effect, and this is one of my favorite effect inside of After Effects. So let's start off by changing the fractal type from basic to dynamic twist. Set the noise type from soft linear to spline. This is going to give us this really nice texture into our fractals. Let's increase the contrast all the way up to 200 and bring down the brightness to -40. So now you can see we get a bit more detail. So we need to bring down the details a little bit. So let's bring down the complexity to 2. And let's jump into the transform option. Unlink the uniform scaling. And I'm going to increase the scale height to something like 800 should be good. So we get this really cool fractals. Also, I want to animate the evolution. So to animate this, I will be using a very simple expression. I'm going to hold Alt and click on the stopwatch of the evolution. And let's type in an expression called time times 10. So it's going to keep on animating just like that. Very nice and subtle. And then I will also animate the offset turbulence. So I'm going to go at the very start, create a keyframe on the offset turbulence. Let's drag this right here. Go at all the way up to 10 seconds and drag this down like so. So now we have a very nice and simple movement, which is looking pretty nice. Now, before I proceed further with this tutorial, I just want to take a minute and talk about today's sponsor, Pond5. Pond5 is the world's largest stock video marketplace with over 30 million clips to choose from. This includes the highest standard of royalty-free premium video clips which are available to use straight away in your projects. In addition to videos, Pond5 also has a huge selection of music, sound effects, photos, graphics, After Effects templates, and 3D models. Pond5 offers tailored solutions to suit the individual needs of every creator. The choices are quite endless. If you want just an item or two, you can purchase with pay per item pricing or stock up on a credit pack to get the most bang for your buck. If you have more consistent content needs, then Pond5 has a membership offering as well. Everything they sell comes with the best price guarantee. To get started, you can create a free account today, choose from a large library of content including thousands of free assets and start creating. So you can click the link in the video description to get a flat 20% off on any of these options today. Now I want to add some more details to our fractal. So to do that, I'm going to duplicate the fractal noise effect. So hit Ctrl D and change the blending mode of this to screen. This is very important. And then I'm going to invert this. So click on invert, then bring down the contrast to 100 and increase the brightness to -55. And I'm going to also increase the complexity from 2 to 4. So now you can see we have some variations here. Go into the transform option. I'm going to increase the scale height to 1000. Just to make it look a bit more complex. Now, one thing that is very important here is we need to change this complete project from 8 bits to 32 bits. So to do that, you can hold Alt and click on this button. So it's going to switch to 16 bits and then click one more time. It's going to switch to 32 bits. This is very, very important to get the exact look that we want. All right. So let's go back into our fractals and everything is looking pretty nice, I think. Now I want to create a simple mask here. So I'm going to select my pen tool and let's click and drag and create something that looks much organic. Then select the layer, hit F to bring down the mask feather property and let's increase the feather. Now I can unlink the feather and let's actually adjust them individually. So something like that, maybe around 800 and this one to around 300 maybe. So we get this really nice and organic fractals. Okay, so that is looking very nice. Now let's go back into our main render composition, drag and drop in the simple fractals like that. Also hit Ctrl Y and add a new solid called this BG for background. Put this at the back. Select the fractal layer and let's make it 3D. Select the layer, hit R to bring down the rotation properties and I'm gonna just rotate it the way I want. So something like this maybe, and like something like this. I'm gonna place it right over here and change the blending mode of this. So hit F4 and change this to screen, then duplicate this, hit Control D, and I'm gonna drag this right here. Let's keep it something like that. Hit R to bring down the rotation, and then what I want to do is let's set this to something like 20 and let's rotate it like that, just to add a bit more depth, inside the scene. So something like this one and something like that. So we have this very nice look. So this is looking pretty good. Now let's go ahead and create the second layer of fractals. So let's go ahead and create a new composition with the same exact width and height. Call this organic fractals. All right. Hit Control Y and let's call this BG. Hit Control Y, call this fractals, and then add the fractal noise again. Now change the fractal type from basic to dynamic and change the noise type from soft linear to spline. And I'm going to click on invert, increase the contrast to around 350, and then bring down the brightness to -15 should be good. Also, I'm going to bring down the complexity to 5 should be fine, and jump into the transform properties, unlink the uniform scaling and set the scale width to 400 and increase the scale height to all the way up to 1000. Let's again animate the evolution by adding the simple expression. So hold Alt, click on the stopwatch, add time times 15 this time, and we get this really nice look, I think. Now let's select the offset turbulence. So I'm gonna drag this right over here, create a keyframe, go all the way and drag this down. So we have something like this, which looks pretty cool. Now again, I'm going to select my pen tool and create a very random but organic looking shape right here. So, something like this. Hit F to bring down the feather properties, unlink this, and I'm going to feather this up like that. There we go. So if I preview this, you can see we get this very nice and organic look. Maybe I can tweak the mask a little bit, I think. Now let's go ahead and add some more detail to this again. So hit Control D to duplicate it, change the blending mode of this to screen. I'm going to bring down the contrast to 180 and bring up the brightness to -45. Then go into the transform properties and set the scale width to 250 and also bring down the scale height to 650. So now you can see right here we have much more detail into our fractals, and that is the kind of look I want to go for. If I want, maybe I can stretch the width, but yeah, that's fine. And then finally I will add a turbulence displacement on this. Let's increase the size to 160. And that's it. So now if I preview this, you can see we get this really cool look, which I really like. I think I'll increase the scale height a little bit here. So let's stretch this out. Okay. Pretty cool. So our organic fractals are also ready. Let's go back into our main rendering comp, drag them on top of this, make sure to hit F4 and turn them into a 3D layer and change the blending mode of this to screen as well, so everything gets blended in very nicely. I can hit R and rotate them like so. And you can just tweak this like that. Then I'm gonna go into effects and preset and search for a tint effect so we can add some nice color to this. So let's double click to add this, and let's go ahead and make this a nice orange color. So that is looking good. And then I can duplicate this, hit Control D. Also I can change the color of this layer to let's go with blue, and this one to yellow because I don't have orange color at the moment. So I'll move this one right here and let's add a blue color to this. get a really nice look. Hit R and let's rotate in the position that we want, so something like that, and like so, and probably an invert version of that, something like this is looking pretty nice. Now I'm going to add a little bit of vignette to this, so hit Control Y to create a new solid called this vignette. I'm going to hit OK, and this I'm going to create manually this time, just so that it looks much more organic, like that. And hit M, invert the mask, and hit F and feather the mask really high, like that. Hit T and bring down the opacity, finally, something like that. Okay, so that is looking good. Now right click and create a new adjustment layer called this glow, so we can add some nice glows to this. You can use deep glow plugin if you have it, but I am going to go with the default glow, which is very nice, by the way. All I have to do is increase the glow radius to around 600, so it looks very nice. Maybe increase the glow a little bit, and then I'm going to drag in my title composition that we previously created on top of the glow layer, and make sure to hit F4 and turn this into a 3D layer. So we have our title right over here looking good. I can jump right here, adjust this one, just try to get a really nice look out of this. Then on the title composition, I'm going to add a gradient ramp, just to make it look a bit more cinematic. So I'm going to drag this here, swap the colors, and yeah, that is looking good. Hit T to bring down the opacity and set this to 90%. Then I'm going to create a few copies of these fractals, so hit Control D to duplicate them and make them really nice and small, like so. Hit S and let's scale that down, maybe place right here one. Just trying to add a little bit more detail into the scene, so something like this. Then select the yellow one or the orange one, hit Control D and hit S, bring down the scale, and maybe place one right here. This basically helps us to add much more detail and make the scene look much more complex at the same time. So maybe somewhere around there. Doesn't have to be perfect. I'm doing this very randomly. You can of course take your time and make it look as cool as possible. So yeah, that is pretty good as of now. Let's create a new adjustment layer here, call this CC for color correction, and going to fix and preset and add some curves to this. So let's first of all add some nice contrast here, and then I'm going to jump into the blue channel and let's actually add a point here and create something like this. Really nice look. And also I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, call this blur. I'm going to make the details of this shapes a bit blurry, so I can use a fast blur on this. So let's go into effects and reset, search for fast box blur, double click to apply that, put this below the CC and repeat H pixel, set the iteration to 1 and bring up the blur radius to somewhere around 50, should be fine. And then hit T and bring down the opacity of this to 20%. So now you can see before and after. Looks much more blended in and looks much more smoother here. And I think this is looking pretty damn cool. Again, if your final result is not looking the way you want, make sure you're working in the 32 bits per channel. If I hold Alt and switch to 8 bits, you can see the difference in the colors. We get much more contrast in this. Also the glows are very nice. And also you have some particle footage that I got from our today's sponsor pond5.com. So I'm going to drag and drop this footage below our vignette and set the blending mode of this to screen, so that everything looks a bit more organic and put together, which is looking very nice, I think. And finally, let's add some camera movement. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new camera. Going to keep it at 50 millimeters, hit OK, put it at the top. Hit P to bring down the position. Now we can, go ahead and animate the camera, which is going to make things look a bit more interesting. So let's go at the very start, create a keyframe, go all the way up to 7 seconds, and let's add some zoom in animation. And now we have a very nice look. And finally, I will add some fade to reveal everything. So I'm going to create a new adjustment layer, call this fade. Go in effects and preset and search for a gradient wipe. Gradient wipe. Set the transition softness to 100%, and now we can animate the transition completion to get a very nice fade in and fade out. So let's go to 1 second and 15 frames probably, set this to 0, create a keyframe, go back and set this to 100. So basically we have a very nice and organic fade in of our animated scene. So I think this is looking pretty nice. One thing I would probably like to change is the intensity of our simple fractals. So I'm going to select this, hit T, and bring them down a little bit, not much. Also, you can anytime jump into the organic fractals. You can change this to maybe something like a red if you're working on a really intense intro. So I can select this, copy the tint, hit Control C, and then select all your organic fractals, hit Control V, and directly we get a very cool look. I can jump into the CC. Let's go back to RGB and let's adjust this a little bit. I can change the title to maybe something like bloody cinematic. I don't know, you can do a number of different things using this cool technique. So that is a wrap for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press that bell icon so you always get notified whenever I post a new video. You can also follow me on Instagram at dopemotions.com, and if you're feeling generous, then please do check out our Patreon page. With that said, I will see you guys in the next video. Till then, take care and always stay raw, stay creative. Peace out.